So Hare Krishna everyone. Welcome to our session of Srimad Bhagavatam. So we begin as usual by offering our prayers to our Guru Parampara and also to the founder Acharya of Srila Prabhupada. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurumilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manubhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Gadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavam Shri Rupam Sagrajadam Sahagana Raghunathan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padahan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitam He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Deenabandhu Jagatpate Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Jayatam Shratau Pango Mama Manda Matirgati Matsarvasva Padam Bojo Radha Madanamo Divyat Vrindaranya Kalpa Dhumadaha Srimad Ratnagara Simhasanaustau Srimad Radha Srila Govinda Deva Prashtadi Bihi Sevyamano Smarami Sriman Rasa Rasarambi Vamsivata Stata Stitaha Karshan Venur Swaner Gopir Gopinata Shri Estunaha Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Haripriye Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Nitinamine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Virvishesha Sunyavadi Paschatya Shatadini Narayanam Namaskrityam Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Mudiraye. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the very means of conquest, one should offer respectful obeisances unto the personality of Godhead Narayana, unto Nara Narayana Rishi, the supermost human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and unto Srila Vyasadeva, the author. Nasta prayeshu abhadreshu nityam bhagavata sevaya bhagavate uttama sloke bhaktir bhavati naishtaki. By regular attendance in classes on the Bhagavatam and by rendering of service to the pure devotee, all that is troublesome to the heart is almost completely destroyed, and loving service unto the personality of Godhead, who is praised with transcendental songs, is established as an irrevocable fact. Nigamakалпатароргалитам phalam shukamkaramritadravya samyutam vibhata bhagavatam rasamalayam muhuraho rasika bhuvi bhavataha Krishnaya Vasudevaya Devaki Nandanaya cha Nandagopa Kumaraya Govindaya Namo Namaha Nama Pankajanabhaya Nama Pankajamadine Nama Pankajanetraya Namaste Pankajangre Vahi me Ananta Vishaya Matir Madhupate Asakrit Ratim udvahatat adha gange vaugam mudanvatim. O Madhupate, as the Ganga forever flows to the sea without hindrance, let my Ratim be constantly drawn unto you without being diverted to anyone else. So, Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vigna Vinashana Rasimhaiti Namini Mukam Karoti Vachalom Pangam Langayitim Girim Yatkripadamaham Vande Sri Guru Dinatarinam Paramananda Madhavam Sri Chaitanya Mishwaram Om Tat Sat. So Hare Krishna everybody. So welcome back to our Srimad Bhagavatam. So this is chapter 9 and today we are covering this chapter, the passing away of Bhishmadev in the presence of Lord Krishna, part 4, and this will hope to complete the chapter today. So, part 4, not part 3. So, we'll do a bit of recap very quickly and then jump straight into the chapter. So, this chapter began with the assembly of all the Pandavas and all the, basically everyone, all the Deva Rishis, the Maharishis, the Brahma Rishis, from all over the universe, the Devatas, together with their disciples, all the great personalities assembled at the deathbed in the bed of arrows, where Bhishmadev was lying, waiting for his darshan with Lord Krishna. So, and after that, we heard about how Bhishmadev received all of these guests very nicely. He glorified each and every one of them. And he was able to, and then he began his prayer of glorifying Lord Krishna. And we heard that also. And after that comes the part where after the glorifications, Bhishmadev kindly puts a prayer to Krishna. He says, I know why you have brought me here, why you have all come. You want me to speak on Dharma. So kindly remain with me and be in the line of my vision at the time of my passing. So he knows, Bhishmadev can understand that the time of his passing is near, and he had the boon. Bhishmadev is known as Chanda Mrityu. Chanda Mrityu means he has the boon given by his father that he can die at any time of his choosing. Nobody can kill him if he doesn't want to die. Now, this is a boon even Hiranyakashipu did not get, from so from Brahmadev, he couldn't get Hiranyakashipu this boon, but Bhishmadev got this boon, that he was able to die at any time he wanted. So anyway, therefore, he chose this period. He wanted to die with Lord Krishna standing in front of him. And therefore, he waited patiently until the end of the Mahabharata war, so that Lord Krishna, he knew Lord Krishna will not abandon him. He knew Lord Krishna will come together with the victorious Pandavas. And at that time, with full happiness, Bhishmadev wanted to leave. So he offers this prayer to Krishna. And then Yudhishthira Maharaj begins his, Yudhishthira Maharaj comes to Bhishmadev, approaches Bhishmadev, and kindly requests Bhishmadev to speak about Dharma. So Bhishmadev speaks all kinds of Dharma. The full context of it is there in the Shanti Parva of the Mahabharata text. It's an entire Parva, full of it, very, very long, gives detailed descriptions of all kinds of Dharma, Raja Dharma, Brahmana Dharma, all kinds of Dharmas. And as well as Bhagavad Moksha Dharma and also Bhagavad Dharma, devotional service as well. He talks about it. So after speaking so long, that person who has spoken who has spoken thousands and thousands of topics, who has fought thousands and thousands of wars and given instructions to thousands of people, he kept silent at that time, knowing that this is the time that he wants to leave. So then Lord Krishna appears in front of him and Bhishmadev begins his final prayers. He lets go all the material dharma, all the other aspects of life, and he fully focuses only on one thing, which is the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord. So we hear the various aspects of Bhishmadev's meditation, how Bhishma Dev thinks step by step the various aspects of how he focuses his mind in the remembrance of Krishna. So that remembrance, which is undisturbed, constantly, very powerful, undisturbed remembrance, is called samadhi. So here I'm just recapping the main points of Bhishma Dev's samadhi, how he remembers the Lord at the time of his death. So he begins by saying, let my thinking, feeling, and willing. So the use of the word matihi. Matihi is a Sanskrit word, which is it has several meanings in it. It basically is a very strong word which is used to denote someone who is fully mind, body, and soul, thinking, feeling, and willing. He is putting all his thoughts into one thing. So matihi. I'll just mute you, Mataji. Okay. All right. So Mati, thinking, feeling, and willing. So what does he want to think, feel, and will about? So Bhishma Dev, he says, let Bhagavati Satvata Pungave Vibhumni Swasukam. So he says, let me think, feel, and will upon that personality. Who's that personality? Bhagavate, the Supreme Lord, who is Satvata Pungave. So he is the leader of the devotees. One who is the leader of the devotees, who is Vibhu, all great, and who is self-satisfied. Although he is self-satisfied, he still comes and serves and relishes relationships with his devotees. So let me invest my mind, thinking, and feeling unto that personality. So he begins that way first. So, and then he goes on, he moves to one step higher. He goes to the form of the Lord, which is very dear to him. In this particular form, Parthasarthi form. So he says, Vijaya Sakhe Ratir Astume Anavadya. So let me focus my mind on Vijaya Sakhe. Vijaya Sakhe means Vijaya is one who is always victorious in battle, and that is Arjuna. Sakhe means friend. So let me focus on the friend of one who is always victorious in battle. That means the friend of Arjuna. Ratir means my attraction. Let my entire attraction be focused on that Vijaya Shakir. Astume. So my attraction, let it be focused on him. And Navadya, without any material desires. And then he says, Partha Shakir Ratir Mamatsu. So same thing he says now, Partha Shakir. Partha is Arjuna, right? Son of Pritha. Saki again means friend. So let this son of Kunti Maharani, son of Pritha, the friend of the son of Pritha, let that person be the object of my attraction. Just like, we hear the prayers of the Jagannatashtakam, right? Where, what do you call, Shankaracharya, yeah, he made that prayer where he says, Jagannatha Swami Nayana Patagami Bhavatume. So let the Supreme Lord of the universe, Jagannath Swami, be the object of my vision. So in the same way, Bhishmadev is praying. Let that Partha Sakhi, the friend of Arjuna, be the object of my vision. So Vijaya Sakir, then he goes on to say Tribhuvana Kamanam Kamala Varnam. He describes how this Vijaya Sakir looks. So he goes into details. He starts remembering how the form of the Lord, the way he remembered the form of the Lord in this particular situation where Krishna is driving the chariot of Arjuna. So he says Tribhuvana Kamanam. He is so beautiful that he attracts everyone in the three worlds. The three bhuvana, the 14 planetary systems is divided into three categories. Bhu, Bhuvar, and Swarga, right? The three planetary systems. So all the residents there are attracted by this beautiful person. So Tribhuvana Kamanam, Kamala Varnam. And his body has the color of the tamala tree. The tamala tree is a very dark colored tree, looks bluish, blackish color, tamala tree. It's there in Mayapur or Vrindavan if you go and see. So the color of his skin is like that. So this is very attractive, and Bhishmadev is praying. Ravikara Gauravara Ambaram. And then he further describes how the lotus face of the Lord is very beautifully decorated, and his eyes are like the sunset, the color of sunset. Ravikara. Ravikara means the color of sun. Sun is Ravi. And Gauravara, so golden colored dhoti and clothing he's wearing, with his face covered with beautiful paintings of sandalwood pulp. Very nice. So in this way, he's meditating on the face of the Lord. And then he goes on even more deeper, how the Lord being decorated with ash, covered flowing hair, and beads of sweat intensified by arrow wounds. How the Lord is being struck by arrows. Bhishmadev is shooting arrows at the Lord, and all these arrows are causing wounds on his body. And these wounds are decorating the beauty of the body, making Krishna look even more attractive, particularly to Bhishmadev, who's able to see all these things very nicely, because he's in the line of the enemy. So the enemy can see this very, very, very nicely approaching. Whereas Arjuna, who is standing with Krishna in the chariot, he cannot relish this beauty so nicely, right? Because he's together with him. So he cannot see the vision of Krishna driving the chariot of Arjuna so beautifully like this. Whereas Bhishmadev, standing away, seeing the approach of Krishna, he could relish this beauty. So we discuss all this in detail, how the decorations, he sees the ash and the sweat and the wounds as decorations of the Lord's body. And the Lord knows this also. So therefore the Lord is satisfying Bhishmadev's desire. And then he goes on, gives him even more detail, right? He says, Charanarati paramasya tasya me astu. Let the object of my attraction always be focused on the Charanarati paramasya. Charanarati means, rati means attraction, charana means lotus feet, right? Let my attraction be at the lotus feet of Paramasya, the Supreme Lord. And then he says, this person, this Supreme Lord, whose mere glance shortened the lifespan of all the enemy warriors, and whose lotus feet he delivered Arjuna with Atma Vidya, knowledge of the soul. So he's remembering the instance where Krishna was instructing Arjuna the Bhagavad Gita. So Bhishmadev was also there watching all these things, and he was relishing the incident, the scene. So he was remembering this scene. And then he went on to speak about his favorite scene, Krishna rushing towards Bhishmadev in anger, carrying the wheel. So this was very, very ecstatic moment for Bhishmadev. So he prays, Sa bhavatu me bhagavan gatir mukundaha. So may he, Mukunda, the Lord who awards liberation. Mukunda means one who gives liberation. May Mukunda award me his ultimate destination. Let me attain the ultimate destination of Mukunda. So in other words, he's saying, I don't want liberation. I want to go to where Lord Krishna is. Fulfilling, and then he goes on in his ecstasy. Bhishmadev is remembering how the Lord is so nicely fulfilling Bhishmadev's vow. So we talked about that, how Bhishmadev had taken a vow that on that day, he will fight so strongly that Arjuna will be put into danger. And unless Krishna, so the vow is Bhishmadev will fight in such a way that Arjuna will be in danger of his life. So that was Bhishma's vow. In fact, Bhishma's vow was to kill almost. But Bhishma put a caveat. He said, unless Krishna himself breaks his promise, then I cannot do anything. So Krishna breaks his promise by lifting the chariot wheel and rushing towards Bhishma. because Krishna has taken the promise that he will not fight in the war. But in this position, only Bhishma Dev could put Arjuna in this situation where Krishna had no choice but to lift the wheel and rush towards Bhishma to protect Arjuna. So in this way, you can see how Krishna is not interested to keep his, even he's not bothered if his reputation of keeping his word is tarnished, so long as the reputation of his devotee is not tarnished. So he rather that Bhishma's vow is kept than his own vow, which is broken. No? So he didn't mind if his own vow is broken, so long as Bhishma's vow is kept. So in this way, Krishna was ready to break his vow just to keep Bhishma's vow. So therefore, he lifted the chariot. And not only that, like a lion charging an elephant. So this is the desire of Bhishma. Bhishma wanted Bhishma wanted Krishna to approach him in a warrior mood, in a fighting mood. This was the particular ecstasy or relationship which Bhishma Dev wanted from Krishna. So and Krishna, and he never had a chance. Krishna never gave this his opportunity, right? Because Bhishma Dev was always his devotee and everything. But in the Mahabharata war, finally he got his opportunity to have Krishna rush towards him in an angry mood to see that vision. So like a lion charging an elephant, unchecked and unhindered. So you can see how Arjuna is holding on to Krishna. Oh, Krishna, no, you must keep your promise, right? You promised not to do this. You promised you will not fight, please. So this is in one side, his devotee is so concerned about Krishna keeping his promise, and because of him, Krishna is breaking his promise. Just to save Arjuna, Krishna is breaking his promise. And on the other side, just to keep Bhishma's word, Krishna is breaking his promise. So therefore, to protect his devotee and to satisfy his other devotee, Krishna is willing to break his promise. So this is the beauty of Krishna's reciprocation and relationship with his devotees. So such is that Supreme Personality, such is that Master. So Bhishma Dev is remembering this very beautifully. So now we continue with our verses. So now we come to verse 39 of chapter 9. So Bhishma Dev continues with his samadhi. I concentrate my mind upon Vijayarata. So again, he remembers this particular form of Vijayarata. So from here, we can see there are so many verses Bhishma Dev has spoken about Vijayarata, Parthasarathi, the form of the Lord, where Krishna is driving the chariot of Arjuna. So this is the meditation and the mood of Bhishma Dev. Bhishma Dev's meditation is in this mood. So therefore, it is a chivalrous Kshatriya spirit, a type of Dasya Rasa, a type of servant Rasa, Dasya Rasa, but tinged with chivalry, warrior spirit. So we can understand Bhishma Dev's destination at the end of his life. So I concentrate my mind upon Vijayarata, who is Tat Shriya, beautifully standing with a whip in his right hand and a bridal robe in his left. So in this way, Bhishma Dev is remembering the Lord, who was very careful to give protection to Arjuna's chariot by all means. So he remembers the Lord always protecting the devotee who is in the chariot and holding the whip to chastise all those who would come and cause problems, he says, right, in Bhagavad Gita, duskritam vinashanam. So to destroy the duskritanaha, to kill the unrighteous, the demons. So therefore, he is standing like that with his whip, right? It symbolizes that. And the Lord is also Hrishikesha. He holds the bridle of the horses. The horses are considered like the five senses. The five horses of Arjuna's chariot are considered like the five senses. So if we surrender to the Lord and dedicate our senses to him, the Lord as Hrishikesha, the master of the senses, he can guide us towards him, towards his lotus feet. So those who saw him on the battlefield of Kurukshetra attained Swarupam after their deaths. So the thing is, one who surrenders to the Lord, who takes shelter of the Lord, who allows the Lord to guide their senses, all these people attain the supreme abode of the Lord. So here it says, the person, Arjuna, Krishna in the battlefield, all those people who died looking at Krishna, right, they all attain their spiritual forms in the spiritual world. The word Swarupam is used. Swarupam is their original spiritual form in the spiritual world. So just by even the enemies, all those who died looking at Krishna, they attain the spiritual Rupam. So there were many of them. Unfortunately, Duryodhana was not one of them. He did not get to see the Supreme Lord when he was dying. So he died alone. But anyway, the point here is Krishna is very, very merciful. And Bhishma Dev is remembering this mercy, how he was merciful to everybody. So, this story goes in Mahabharata that after the entire Mahabharata war, finally the last battle was fought. Krishna drove the chariot of Arjuna and asked Arjuna, now Arjuna, you please step down from the chariot. And then Arjuna was telling Krishna, oh, why don't we step down together? Why are you asking me to step down first? So Krishna said, no, you step down first. So then Arjuna stepped down and moved away. And then Krishna says, move away from the chariot. Then Arjuna moved away from the chariot. Then finally, Krishna steps down from the chariot. And the moment Krishna steps down from the chariot, the entire chariot broke into pieces. It just reduced into ash. It disappeared. The understanding is it returned back to the fire god, Agni. It burnt into ash and returned back to Agni. But it also indicates how the chariot was, during the Mahabharata war, so many powerful weapons were hurled and thrown at the chariot. Brahmastras, Brahmasirshas, Narayana Astras, all kinds of Astras were thrown. And it was only due to the presence of Krishna that the chariot, even though it was Agni Dev's chariot, it was only due to the presence of Krishna that the chariot was able to withstand everything. And therefore, here Krishna is showing how he is the cause of all causes. So by his grace, Arjuna is protected and the chariot is also kept intact. So the moment Krishna steps down, the chariot, so long which is being held together only by Krishna's mercy, finally disintegrates and returns back to Agni Dev. So Bhishma Dev is remembering all this and he's meditating on it. So then Bhishma Dev is saying, Bhagavati Ratir Astube Mumurshur. At the moment of my death, Mumurshur means at the moment of my death. So let all this remembrance come to me in my mind at the moment of my death. Let my ultimate attraction, Ratir Astu, Ratir means attraction. Let my ultimate attraction be upon this personality, Bhagavati, on the Supreme Lord. And then he continues. Now he goes further. So Bhishma Dev reveals his Swabhava. So we can understand Bhishma Dev's mood is in the mood of Aishwarya. He relishes Krishna in this mood of awe and reverence. So this is a part of Dasya Ras. You can see it's a type of servant mood. There are 5 rasas, 5 major rasas, right? Dasya Ras, servant mood. One can have a relationship with the Lord in the mood of the first one is in the mood of a neutral mood. Neutral, that's Shanta Ras. Then in a servant mood, Dasya Ras. Then in a relationship as a friend, Sakya Ras. Then in a relationship as a parental relationship, protection. So that is Vatsalya Ras. And then in the relationship of a lover, Madhurya Ras. But Bhishma Dev's mood is revealed that he is in the mood of Dasya Ras, servant mood. And in awe and reverence, in the form of Krishna coming towards him with all majesty as a warrior. So that is revealed by so many verses that he has quoted. But nevertheless, he prays one more time he gives a special verse in verse 19 in verse 40. Here he prays like this: let my mind be fixed upon Lord Sri Krishna, whose motions and smiles of love attracted the Gopavadavaha. Gopavadvaha means the cowherd damsels of the gopis, basically the gopis, the cowherd damsels of those who take care of the cows. Gopa means those who take care of the cows, and the Vadvaha means the damsels. So in other words, the gopis. So let my mind be fixed upon Krishna, whose motions and smiles, motions means movements, whose gestures, arms, the gestures he does, and his smiles of love attracted the gopis, who are highly glorified. He uses the word Urumanaha. So here Bhishma Dev is giving his tribute and offering his obeisances to the gopis. Why is he doing that? So we'll come to that shortly. Let me just finish this point. And having gone mad in ecstasy, they imitated the characteristic movements of the Lord. So what happens is, Bhishma Dev, his mood is in Dasya Ras, but he's taking the blessings of the gopis. He's acknowledging that the gopis are the greatest of devotees of the Lord. The gopis' devotion to the Lord is unmatched. So he uses the word Urumanaha. So, when someone wants to get blessings, they take blessings from the Lord. They also take blessings from the pure devotees of the Lord. And the topmost devotees are the gopis. So he is begging their mercy. So this is Bhishma Dev's mood. He himself doesn't have that particular mood of the gopi. He doesn't have Madhurya Ras, but he's begging the mercy of the gopis so they can bless him, so that he may attain the Supreme Lord. And then he's glorifying the gopis after that. He's saying how the gopis are so highly glorified. Why? Because when Krishna, he's talking particularly about one particular instance. During the Rasa dance, when Krishna was having his Rasa Leela pastime in the forests of Vrindavana in the middle of the night, he played on his flute, Vamsi, and all the gopis came rushing, hearing the sound from their various households. They just left everything. It's described how one gopi was in the middle of cooking, and then she just dropped her utensils in the kitchen and, like a dazed person, walked out of the house. And another gopi, she was in the middle of putting makeup on her face. Only half the face is put makeup. When she heard the sound of the flute, she just dropped everything and left the house just like that, with half the face made up. And another gopi was dressing up, and she didn't complete her jewelry and dressing, but as soon as she heard the sound of the flute, she just dropped everything and left. Their minds were fully absorbed in the ecstasy of relationship with the Lord. And some gopis, it was described, they wanted to leave also, but their family members stopped them. And because they couldn't leave and join the Rasa Leela dance, out of intense separation, these gopis left their bodies then and there. They died, left their bodies then and there. So, and on the rest of these gopis, they all rushed towards the middle of the forest. They abandoned for a lady at that time, the name, the chastity of the lady is the prize jewel, is the crown jewel of the lady. So, there are many, many wealth of the lady, but the crown jewel is her chastity. So here it indicates how the gopis were willing to abandon their family, their lives, their good name, even their chastity in the middle of the night, leave everything and just rush. They don't care about their reputation. They don't care about anything. They just rush towards the Lord because the Lord was playing on his flute. And they came towards the Lord and they gave up everything. So Krishna was telling the gopis, you who have given up everything for me, there is nothing I can do I do not have anything in my power to repay you. So there's nothing I can give you in my power to repay you. There's nothing to match the amount of sacrifice that you have done for me. So I can only hope that the relationships that we have, that the pleasure that you get from this relationship is that you have to accept as your due reward. And in this way, I will walk behind you, and I will take the dust of your lotus feet, and I'll smear it on my head. So this is what Krishna says to the gopis. So anyway, when they went to the middle of the forest in the night, the Rasa dance Leela was taking part, and at that time Krishna expanded himself into all the different gopis. So one Krishna expanded, and there were two gopis dancing with each expansion, and in the middle Krishna was dancing with Radharani. So at one point of time, all the gopis were feeling, oh, Krishna is dancing with me alone. They developed some kind of small tinge of pride. They just thought, oh, Krishna they actually felt, because Krishna was dancing with them, he had expanded himself, but they only had eyes for Krishna. They were not looking at the others. So they thought that Krishna is only dancing with me. How fortunate I am. So that kind of small pride, Krishna detected that pride, and he wanted to teach the gopis a lesson. So he immediately disappeared from the view. So in the middle of the dance, he immediately disappeared. And when he disappeared, the gopis were still in the middle of the dance. So when they were dancing, and their minds were shocked. They couldn't take it. Suddenly, the Lord disappeared, and they were still in the motions. So mad with ecstasy, even though the Lord disappeared, they were still moving the motions like a robot, like dancing. The hands and the legs and the movements were still moving mechanically like a robot in ecstasy. They couldn't accept that the Lord has disappeared. They still continued the motion. It's like a fan. The fan is turning, but when you off the switch, the fan stops. It doesn't stop immediately. It still turns, but there's no longer power to it. So it's still moving, right? So in the same way, the gopis, though the Lord has disappeared, still the ecstasy was carrying them forward. They were still moving, arms and legs moving in ecstasy. So this kind of devotion that the gopis had, Bhishma Dev, he knew about it. So he is saying this in this verse. So he is remembering this. He knows. That's why Bhishma Dev is known as one of the Mahajans, the 12 Mahajans, the confidential Mahajans who knew the glory of everyone. So he knew the glories of the gopis. So therefore he is saying this beautiful verse. He's remembering. Having gone in ecstasy, having gone mad in ecstasy, they imitated the characteristic movements of the Lord. So to these greatly glorified gopis, I offer my respectful obeisances, and let my mind be fixed upon that Krishna. So he is requesting the mercy of the gopis so that he can remember the Lord at the time of his death. So Prabhupada makes lots of statements here. Yeah, I've just put some here. The gopis, however, practically became one with the Lord by attainment of equal footing with the Lord. So this is to glorify the gopis. They were very, very dear devotees of the Lord. Bhishma's aspiration to remember the gopis is a prayer to have their mercy also at the end of life. Why? Right? The Lord is satisfied more when his pure devotees are glorified. And therefore, Bhishma Dev glorifies acts of Arjuna and also the gopis who were endowed with unrivaled opportunities for rendering loving service to the Lord. So he's trying to attract the mercy of Krishna. Why? That's why he is continuously saying Vijaya Ratha, Partha Sakir, He doesn't say Krishna. He doesn't say, he keeps attracting the Lord's attention to his pure devotees. So this is the secret of attracting the mercy of the Lord. By always serving the pure devotee of the Lord. The Lord is more pleased when one is serving the pure devotee of the Lord or worshipping his devotee. That's why the Lord says, in I think one of the Puranas, if I'm not mistaken, Padma Purana, I think, the Lord says, that person who worships me is not my devotee. He is telling to Lord Shiva, if I'm not mistaken. So that Krishna says, that Lord Vishnu actually, he's saying this. So he says, that person who worships me is not my devotee, but the person who worships my devotee, that is my devotee. So therefore, Krishna, he's not so much interested to somebody who comes to him and directly worships him. He's more interested to someone who serves his devotee, who satisfies his devotee. So that's the secret. So therefore, Krishna created the parampara system, the Guru parampara system, to give us this opportunity to serve his pure devotees. And in this way, the shortcut to attaining very quickly Krishna's mercy. So the Lord is satisfied more when his pure devotees are glorified. Therefore, Bhishma again and again says, Vijaya Sake, Partha Sake, attracting the Lord's attention to Arjuna, who, Arjuna had so much of opportunities to serve the Lord directly in so many ways, which Bhishma did not have because of his, position and the role he was playing in this Mahabharata drama. And Bhishma was also indirectly saying, Arjuna is very great devotee, but even much greater than Arjuna are the gopis. So here he is directly acknowledging the gopis as the greatest devotees. He's going straight to them. So this is the understanding of the prayer. And then Bhishmadev continues now again back to his meditation after taking the blessings of Arjuna, of the gopis, mentally giving all these prayers. And now he's reverting back to his remembrance of the Lord. What is his remembrance of the Lord? In Dasya Rasa, as a servant, in Aishwarya, in awe and reverence. So he remembered the Lord in great awe and reverence during the Rajasuya sacrifice. So he prays. At the Rajasuya performed by Maharaj Yudhishthira, there was the greatest assembly of all the elite men of the world. Who are the elite men? So this Rajasuya sacrifice, this is a very, very rare sacrifice which is done by the emperor of the entire world. When the emperor of the entire world, he conquers the entire world, right? To usher in auspiciousness and to cement his rule in a very auspicious way, to please all the devatas and to please the Supreme Lord, the great Rajasuya sacrifice is performed. So it's the king of all sacrifices. And in this sacrifice, a lot of wealth is taken from all over the entire world. So much of wealth was brought in by Arjuna, particularly. So that's why Arjuna was known as Dhananjaya, the bringer of wealth. So in this way, great royal opulence, great wealth abundantly. And in this way, the fire sacrifice was commenced. And in this fire sacrifice, there was a requirement that at the end of the sacrifice, the greatest personality who was present within that sacrificial arena should be glorified. So that was the requirement of that sacrifice. So, in this sacrifice, there were great personalities. That's why it says, the greatest assembly of all the elite men of the world. So when we talk about society has the four limbs of society, right? The Shudras, the servants, the mercantile folk, the Vaishyas, the Kshatriyas, administrators and the royalty, and the Brahmanas, the heads of society, the learned heads of society. So the ones who are considered elite are the Kshatriyas and the Brahmanas because of their great learning and their ability to protect. So they are considered the greater aspect of society. But nevertheless, in that assembly, not only the greatest Brahmanas and the greatest kings were there, but even the greatest personalities in the three worlds. Narada Muni was there, all the rishis, just like how they came for Bhishma, they were there at that time. And there were some of them who could even see the Devatas were also present. Brahma was there, Lord Shiva was present, and in the presence of all of them, the greatest personality was selected. Yudhishthira Maharaj selected, after he consulted Bhishma Dev. He consulted Bhishma Dev, who should I select? Right? Of course, he knew that Krishna is the greatest personality, but Yudhishthira Maharaj would never cross etiquette. And the etiquette is they should always take advice from elders. So therefore, he inquired from Bhishma Dev, and Bhishma Dev started to glorify Krishna in that assembly. He said, Krishna is that person. So then Krishna was invited into the assembly, and as soon as Krishna was invited, Shishupal was there. He was very envious of Krishna. So when Krishna was being glorified in so many ways, he couldn't take it. So he started insulting Krishna. He gave 101 insults. And then at the 101 insult, Krishna cut off his head with the Sudarshan Chakra. So that's a long story behind that also. But anyway, during the Rajashiya sacrifice by Maharaj Yudhishthira, there was the greatest assembly of all the elite men of the world, the royal and learned orders. And in that great assembly, Lord Sri Krishna was worshipped by one and all as the most exalted personality of Godhead. So this was seen during the presence of Bhishma. And Bhishma says, this happened during my presence. And he remembers this with great ecstasy. I remembered that incident. I remember the incident. So he's recalling that incident at the time of his death. So this is the beauty of Krishna consciousness, So that's the same way, the same concept also goes with like Radha Yatra. So it is described, if one takes part in the Radha Yatra of the Lord, in a very meditative mode, very involved. The mind is very focused on serving the Lord during Radha Yatra. So in that way, the Lord will force himself into our mind at the time of our death. So this is the promise of the Lord. So Bhishma Dev is remembering. So he was able to see, Jagannath is like the king, right? He's being glorified in the chariot and brought. So in the same way, Krishna directly, Sakshat Krishna was present on earth 5,000 years ago, and he was worshipped in the middle of the great assembly, and he was glorified. And Bhishma Dev had the great fortune to be present to witness all of this. So remembering this, he says, in order to keep Lord Krishna as the object of my attraction, of my sight, so let me remember the Lord in this form, in this Rajashiya sacrifice, how he was glorified. So therefore he prays. Bhishma Dev is continuously praying in this way. So then he continues. Now, he says, I can meditate with full concentration upon that one Lord. Why? Because he had spent his life remembering Krishna, glorifying Krishna, serving Krishna in different ways, and he has glorified his pure devotees like Arjuna, the Pandavas, and he has glorified the gopis. And by the blessings of all of these, and by his own endeavor, right, he was able to remember the Lord. Remember the pastime of Damodar, where Mother Yashoda tries to catch baby Krishna running with the ropes. She tries to tie him. And then when she tries to tie the rope, there's always two fingers too short. So the Acharyas explain the two fingers too short represents two things. When we want to catch Krishna, we need two things. One thing is we need endeavor. So Bhishma endeavored to remember the Lord in so many ways. His life was spent in remembering the Lord. And mercy. So the mercy is taking the dust of the lotus feet of the pure devotees of the Lord and glorifying them. So Bhishma did both, and therefore now he says, now I can meditate with full concentration upon that one Lord, Sri Krishna, now mercifully present before me. Because now I have transcended the misconceptions of duality. So Bhishma Dev now says, he has now gone beyond, he has attained liberation. So he has transcended the misconceptions of duality. That means he is now liberated. So, and what does one do when one gets liberation? Bhishma Dev wants to attain Lord Krishna only. He wants to serve Lord Krishna. So this is a nice point also, a very important point we can understand. The same thing is also described in Bhagavad Gita, chapter 18, verse 54. This is a very famous verse, right? Brahma Bhuta Prasannatma na sochati na kankshati sama sarveshu bhuteshu mad bhaktim labate param. So Brahma Bhuta Prasannatma is one who is thus transcendentally situated. So one who is transcendentally situated, how do we know? Na sochati na kankshati. So that means he at once realizes the Supreme Brahman, he becomes joyful, right? There is no sochati, there is no lamentation or desire, hankering. Na sochati na kankshati. So one who has attained liberation, he has no longer any lamentation, kankshati, or no longer any hankering or lamentation. Instead, he is prasannatma. He is transcendently blissful. In other words, he has transcended the dualities. No more duality. What is duality? Duality is the conception of happiness, distress, you and I, enemy, friend, all these concepts of duality, which is due to the ignorance of the soul. So Bhishma Dev is already liberated because we can see here, this is his consciousness. But what is the goal of liberation? So being liberated is just a stepping stone. It's not the goal. After being liberated, what does he do? Sama sarveshu bhuteshu. So this is another symptom of liberation. He sees everyone equally, right? He's equally disposed to all living entity, right? And what does he do at that stage? This is the most important point, the last verse. Mat bhaktim labate param. So Krishna says, in that state, he attains pure devotional service unto me. So what does that mean? That means in that state of liberation only, one attains pure devotional service unto me. So what does that mean, right? It means that devotional service is divided into two categories. When we are practicing devotional service, there are two stages of devotional service. The first stage is called sadhana bhakti. Sadhana bhakti is devotional service in practice. We are practicing to be a Vaishnava. We are practicing to be a devotee of the Lord, right? And this is in practice. And in practice means we are still within duality. We are still within the three modes of nature, right? We are always tossed by the three modes of nature, but we have taken up the process. It's like we are, a dirty person has entered into the shower. He has taken up the process of bathing. The shower is cleaning us, right? But we are not out of the shower yet. We are in the process of, so that's sadhana bhakti. And sadhana bhakti is divided into, that's the first stage. After that, the next stage is called bhava bhakti. Now, before I talk about bhava bhakti, sadhana bhakti, it has two categories in sadhana bhakti. One is called Vaidhi Bhakti. That's the one we first start. Everyone should start with Vaidhi Bhakti first. So Vaidhi Bhakti is devotional service in practice, following the rules and regulations very carefully and very strictly, right? This is Vaidhi Bhakti. That means one follows the rules and regulations, the do's and the don'ts, right? There's yams and niyams in every yoga, right? So there are do's and don'ts, 4 regulative principles, right? Chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, right? And, controlling the urges of the body, the 6 urges of the tongue, urges of the mind, urges of anger, urges of the genitals, urges of the belly. So all these things, and it's all described in the Nectar of Instruction, Nectar of Devotion. So these are the preliminary stages of bhakti. Getting up early, waking up early, taking a cold water bath, fasting for Ekadasi, doing puja, worship, all of this is Vaidhi Bhakti. comes under sadhana bhakti. We are doing this. We are training ourselves to do it. And then there is also something called Raganuga Bhakti, which is also under Sadhana Bhakti only. It's done within the three modes of nature. We are still not liberated. Raganuga Bhakti is when somebody gets spontaneous attraction to the Lord. It usually comes after doing Vaidhi Bhakti for some time. After doing Vaidhi Bhakti for some time, one spontaneously feels like doing service to the Lord. He doesn't have to be told. He doesn't have to force himself. He doesn't feel like, oh, now I better do it, I should, I made a promise, I better chant. He doesn't think that way. He says, no, he spontaneously chants. He has to. It's no longer something which he has to work himself towards doing it. So that's Raganuga Bhakti. And he follows in the footstep of a devotee of Vrindavan. So like, in the footsteps of Mother Yashoda, or in the footsteps of the Gopas or the Gopis. So he meditates on them, he meditates on their service, and he spontaneously performs his devotional service. So that's Raganuga Bhakti. It comes under the category of Sadhana Bhakti. So both of these are there. And by doing this properly, by following the regulations nicely, one can transcend this red color bar here. It represents the duality, the barrier. So one transcends this barrier, right? So the beginning process is called the prayer. We have heard how chanting Hare Krishna. So when we chant Hare Krishna and when we do devotional service to the Lord, it is actually not directly going to it's not actually direct prayer or direct seva. Because the Lord, our seva at the moment is contaminated by the three modes of nature. And it is not pure. So that's why we worship through the Guru. We pray, we take the mercy of the Guru. Before we chant Hare Krishna, we take blessings of the Guru, and we go through Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. We say the Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda, that particular Panchatattva mantra. So we go through the Guru, go through the Panchatattva, and any service or seva which we do for the Lord is in the consciousness that we are doing it by assisting our Guru, by assisting the pure devotees, by assisting another devotee. So in this way, one devotee is assisting another devotee is assisting another, ultimately linking to the spiritual master, linking to Prabhupada. So that is the mood in sadhana bhakti. So therefore, our service is not directly accepted by the Lord because we are not pure yet. Radharani is very particular. When the wife wants to serve the husband food, she makes sure that the food is very, the top class, first class. So she ensures that everything is clear. She doesn't take in food which is, contaminated or mixed or anything like that. So therefore, but when we offer to the Guru purifies it, and the Guru offers, because he is already pure, then Radharani accepts it directly from the Guru. So that's sadhana bhakti. But when one transcends and becomes liberated, no longer covered by the three modes of nature, beyond the conceptions of duality, right? At that point, he is pure. And at that point, if he takes up devotional service, whatever devotional service is directly accepted by the Lord, right? It goes directly to Radharani. So that is Bhava Bhakti, devotional service in ecstasy. So in the beginning, we pray, we chant, we do our service. Our chanting of Hare Krishna is called the prayer. And as we continuously do it, continuously execute it, right? One fine day, we will come to the Bhava Bhakti stage. And at that time, what do? Do we change? Do we do something different? No, it's the same thing. We still do chanting, we still chant Hare Krishna Mahamantra, we still do seva, but the entire consciousness is completely different. What's the difference? The difference is in sadhana bhakti, we do it because we have to. We do it because we know it's best for us. We do it, and there is some little ecstasy in the Raganuga Bhakti stage, right? but it's not constant. But in Bhava Bhakti stage, it is constant. One is experiencing ecstasy. One chants Hare Krishna and one cannot stop chanting. One does seva and one cannot stop doing seva. So that is Bhava Bhakti. So it is said that in Sadhana Bhakti, we offer the prayer, and in Bhava Bhakti, it is the answer to the prayer. The answer to the prayer is the ecstasy. But what is the thing that we do? It is still the same. We still do the chanting. But now the chanting is an ecstasy. We still do the seva. But now the seva is an ecstasy. And they want nothing else other than this. So this is the difference, the two stages of bhakti, which I am. So here, Bhishmadev is saying, now I have transcended the misconceptions of duality. So now I can fully concentrate my mind on the Lord. So moving on, Bhishmadev prays, he is in everyone's heart, even in the hearts of the mental speculators. So the Lord is merciful to everybody. So again, finally, at the time of his death, Bhishmadev is remembering again the mercy of the Lord. How the Lord never forsake anyone. How the Lord is together with everyone, even those who have forsaken him, even those who have wanting to do nothing to do with him, even the Mayavadis, the mental speculators, the atheists, in all of their hearts, even the demons, Krishna is in all of their hearts, accompanying them, never leaving them alone, to be alone, right? And then he gives the beautiful example. The sun may be perceived differently, but the sun is one, right? We have sunset, we have sunrise, we have midday sun, we have hot sun, we have extremely hot sun, and we have no, not so hot sun covered with clouds. And we have American sun, Japanese sun, Indian sun, Malaysian sun, but it is still the sun, right? It's just one sun. So the same Lord, he may be in the hearts of the demon, the heart of the atheist, the heart of the Mayavadi, the heart of the devotee, but the same Lord is giving his mercy equally to everyone. So Bhishmadev is remembering this, how the Lord is in his heart also as Paramatma. So in this way, he leaves his body. So Sutta Uvacha, Sutta Goswami, who's narrating this entire incident, he says, thus Bhishmadev merged himself in the super soul, Atmani Atmanam Abesha, Krishna Evam Bhagavati. So Prabhupada gives a purport here. He says, this merging, Atmani Atmanam Abesha, is known as Nirvikalpa Samadhi. It doesn't mean that he merged into the Brahman. No. It doesn't mean that he committed, he just removed his identity and became one with the Lord. It's not like that. It means that he merged his thinking of the Lord. That means remember, he started the verse with Mati. That means he's very strongly merging his thinking, willing, and feeling. All three, he's merging together in one focused direction, and he's merging that upon the Paramatma in his heart, remembering the Supreme Lord in the form of his chosen form, in the Aishwarya Dasya Rasa. So therefore, he's merged his remembering, thinking, his entire samadhi in remembering the Lord. So this is what it means over here. Not that he attained impersonal liberation. He attained the remembrance of the Lord. That's why it's called Bhishma Samadhi. And then he continues with mana. So here, see, it's repeating what I'm saying here. With manaha, vak, drishti, and actions. So he has merged his thinking, mana is the mind. He has merged his vak, speaking. He has, whatever he's thinking, whatever he's glorifying, he has merged it with the drishti, whatever that he's seeing. So what he's thinking and what he's speaking is non-different than what he's seeing. He's seeing the Supreme Lord. And his actions. His action is to die and to attain the lotus feet of the Lord. So vritti bihi. So all these things are merged together towards the lotus feet of the Lord. And thus inhaling his last breath, Bhishma Dev became silent. Thus, Bhishma Dev passed away from the mortal realm and attained the supreme abode of the Lord. So Prabhupada says the human form of life is especially meant for dying like Bhishma Dev. So this is the purpose of human life. We are meant to die like this, right? This is the perfection of one who takes up devotional service. And then he says, we might think, oh, Bhishma Dev is very great. He can do all this. But Prabhupada says it is possible for all, right? Everyone can do this, can attain the same. Very emphatically, he says this, right? How? By the practice of the 9 devotional processes. What is the 9 devotional processes? Shravanam, Kirtanam, Smaranam, Padasevanam, right? Archanam, Pujyam, Dasyam, Sakyam, Atmanivedanam. So these are the 9 processes of bhakti. It begins with Shravanam and hearing about the pastimes of the Lord, about the philosophy of the Lord in the Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam. And this hearing process continues in all the other processes as well, but it begins with hearing. And when we hear, we want to also repeat it. So we hear the holy name of the Lord, we chant the holy name of the Lord. So Kirtanam. Kirtanam is the main process. It is the most powerful process amongst all of them. But they go together. Smaranam, Shravanam, hearing, Kirtanam, chanting, and leads to Smaranam, remembering. So these 3 components are there in every other aspect. So it's possible by this process and under the guidance of an expert devotee. So this is an important point also. Therefore, one has to accept Guru, right? And by the mercy of Guru, in the guidance of an expert devotee, right? There are different types of Guru. There are initiating Guru. There is also Siksha Guru, one who gives instructions, right? Or one who gives, one who is able to assist a devotee. So therefore, these are the guidance of an expert devotee. So which can be attained even though Lord Krishna may not be personally present. Then we may argue, oh, Krishna was so nice, he was directly present in front of Bhishma, so Okela Bhishma can attain all this. But to counter this, Prabhupada says, no, even though Lord Krishna may not be personally present, we can still attain. And that's why Srimad Bhagavatam is spoken also, because we will see, right, Parikshit Maharaj, how Parikshit Maharaj, he was cursed. And he passed away after hearing Srimad Bhagavatam, because Srimad Bhagavatam is the Lord incarnation in this material world in Kali Yuga. So wherever there's Srimad Bhagavatam, there is the Lord. Wherever there's Srimad Bhagavad Gita, there is the Lord. Wherever there is the chanting of the holy names of the Lord, there is the Lord personally. And wherever there is the deity Archa Vigraha of the Lord, there is the Lord personally also. Right? So we are never bereft of the Lord. So knowing that Bhishma Dev had merged into the Brahman, all present there became silent like birds at the end of the day. Now this is being narrated by Sutta Goswami. Now Sutta Goswami is narrating to all the sages, the munis in the Naibisaranya forest. Now many of these sages and the munis, they are all transcendentalists. They are not yet become devotees yet. They are still in the process of becoming devotee. They are transcendentalists. They have attained Brahman. So here, Sutta Goswami is saying, Bhishma Dev had joined the Brahman. But what it means here is, right, when they use the word merged into the Brahman, it doesn't mean that he merged into the Brahman, just like how we explained in the previous verse, right? The previous verse indicates that he has merged his thinking, feeling, and speaking, everything into the drishti, the form of the Lord. And in this way, he has attained the lotus feet. He has become one. So what does this mean? Just like we have a green parrot, right? We have a green parrot. So a green parrot, when it flies into a green tree, right? The parrot sort of disappears. It looks as though the parrot has merged into the tree. But The actuality is the parrot is still in the tree. It did not become part of the tree. It didn't, become a leaf. It didn't enter into the tree and become the branch. No, it has flown into the tree. It maintains its identity, right? And it remains in transcendence. So the tree is like Brahman, and the parrot is like the Jiva. So Bhishma merged into the Brahman here means Bhishma has entered into the spiritual planets, because the Brahman is all the spiritual planets as well as the effulgence. The Vaikuntha planets as well as the effulgence of Brahman, they're all Brahman. So in other words, because previously it is said that Bhishma says, I have now transcended duality. So he is now gone beyond the material world. And where else can he go beyond the material world? He can enter into the spiritual world. So the Bhishma Dev has now entered into the spiritual world, and that is what it's being meant over here as described by the Vaishnava Acharyas. Right? So after that, thereafter, both Manava and Devas sounded drums in honor, and the honors royal order commenced demonstrations of honor and respect. And from the sky fell showers of flowers, because a great personality has left the world. So all the devatas, the rishis who were assembled there, they all showered flowers. At the end of the wonderful recitation of Bhishma Dev, how he glorified the Lord, how he glorified the devotees, how he spoke about Dharma, and how the Lord gave his mercy to Bhishma Dev. So therefore, in reciprocation, they showered flowers. Pushpanjali. And at the end of the passing, funeral rites were to be performed. So Sutta Goswami continues. O Bhargava, he is addressing Saunaka Rishi. Saunaka Rishi is the descendant of Bhrigu Muni. So therefore, he is known as Bhargava, right? Descendant of Bhrigu Muni. O Bhargava, after performing funeral rituals for the dead body of Bhishma Dev, Maharaj Yudhishthira was momentarily overtaken with grief. So it's described here that Bhishma Dev was the most affectionate grandfather of the Pandavas and caretaker of Kunti Maharani. So they were very, very close. And Bhishma Dev had great affection for the Pandavas. And they reciprocated in term also. So when Bhishma Dev finally left, Yudhishthira Maharaj was momentarily overtaken with grief. So this grief, Prabhupada gives in his purport, is not material grief. It is not because, oh, now this person is, died, right? It is a grief of separation because of the relationship of one Vaishnava with another Vaishnava and the affection that this beautiful relationship between the two, right? So the separation of that relationship, that is the one that is creating the grief. So it's not lamentation of death. It is simply separation of the grief of separation. So Maharaj Yudhishthira was momentarily overtaken with grief. And then Prabhupada says, it was a great boon to Bhishma Dev that an equally great son of the family undertook the last rites of a great man. So here, both are glorified, Bhishma Dev as well as Yudhishthira Maharaj. Later on, we will hear the glories of Yudhishthira Maharaj in the next later on chapters, right? Here, Bhishma Dev, the great grandsire of the Kuru dynasty, is glorified. And after all this funeral ceremony has taken place, all the great sages, Tustuvur Munayo Hrishtaha, Munayo, all the great sages, they all became satisfied and in a happy mood, because the funeral took place very nicely. Bhishma Dev attained a transcendental destination, right? So all the great munis, the sages, in great satisfaction and in a happy mood, Hrishtaha means happy mood. What did they do? Krishnam tat guhya namabihi. They started to chant the the confidential names of the Lord of the Supreme Lord. Krishnam Tat Guya. Guya means confidential. Nama. Nama means the holy names. So this was still in the Dwapara Yuga. So in the Dwapara Yuga, the holy names of the Lord were still confidential. But in Kali Yuga, by the mercy of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, it is given freely to everyone. So therefore, they chanted the holy names of the Lord. Then all of them returned to their respective ashrams, swa ashrams, back to their hermitages, bearing always Krishna in their hearts, Krishna Hridaya in the hearts. So what did the Munis do? All the assembled sages, all the great personalities, after witnessing this great spectacle and hearing this wonderful thing that the glorification of Bhishma Dev, all of them, at the end of the funeral sacrifice, they were reciting the holy names of the Lord, and keeping the Lord in their hearts, they returned back to their ashram to continue with their activities, meditation. So Srila Prabhupada comments, for the ordinary living beings, the law of nature is there for all actions and reactions. So what does he mean by that? He means there is the law of karma, right? The law of karma is the universal justice system, is meant to regulate justice in the universe. So as one living entity carries out his duties and performs actions and activities, right? There are sins and punya that he may perform. So to right the sins and to reward the punya, there is the law of karma, which follows him life after life after life. But for the devotee, right, the Lord, he is always anxious to put his devotees on the right path. So the law of karma is there, but for the devotee, the law of karma alone doesn't act. The Lord directly intervenes into the lives of devotees. So we should remember whatever that happens in our lives, for all those who are taking up the process of spiritual life seriously, whatever happens, it's not karma. It is actually the Lord intervening directly. He is arranging situations in such a way so that we can take advantage of each of these situations and deepen our devotion for the Lord. And in this way, learn to surrender to the Lord. So this is his arrangement for us. So if we remember things this way and we take whatever situations that come our way in this attitude, in that mood, then it's very, very pleasing to the Lord, and we can make rapid advancement in spiritual life. So the Prabhupada continues here, right? So the devotees, therefore, are under the direct care of the Lord. And the Lord also voluntarily puts himself under the care of his devotees only. So, though especially, I mean, this is for the pure devotees. If we become pure devotees, so this is our reward. If we can become pure devotees of the Lord becomes purchased, and he directly puts himself under our care. He comes to our lives, either in the form of the deity, right? Or personally, he may come to in our lives and have a relationship, a reciprocal relationship. Just like how Prishni and Garbha, they prayed for the Lord to come as their son. The Lord came, he reciprocated and came as their son. And in the same way, in their next life, Devaki and Vasudev also prayed. And in this way, the Lord came as their son. So he reciprocates and puts himself under the care of his devotees. So thereafter, after the funeral ceremony, after all the guests have returned, Maharaj Yudhishthira at once with Krishna went to Gajavayam. Gajavayam is the city of elephants. It is known as Hastinapura, the great capital of the world. Gajavaya Hastinapura. And there, Pitaram Satyavam Asha, he consoled his uncle. Pitaram is like a grandfather. So he consoled his uncle, Dhritarashtra. So this is Dhritarashtra. Why he had to console his uncle? So Yudhishthira was a very duty-bound person. He had no enmity or envy in his heart. He was completely devoted to righteousness. And even though Dhritarashtra had caused so much of difficulties and was practically speaking the root cause of the entire Mahabharata war, nevertheless, he came to Dhritarashtra and he consoled Dhritarashtra because Dhritarashtra had just lost 100 sons, so, and he lost Bhishma, and Bhishma Dev also, who died, who was his close friend also. Bhishma Dev was always, his relative, his cousin, and he was always helping Dhritarashtra in so many ways. So Dhritarashtra had lost everything. He had lost his sons. He had 100 sons. He had lost his right to see his son as a kingdom, as ruling the kingdom. He has lost so many close relatives and friends. He has lost Bhishma Dev. So Yudhishthira Maharaj came to console Dhritarashtra and his wife Gandharim, who is described here as a tapashvini. So tapashvini means one who is very, very austere. So Gandhari is described as very, very austere, a great austere person. Prabhupada glorifies her very much, almost to the level of Bhishma Dev, saying how, Kunti Maharani, she was one of the most beautiful ladies of her time. And when she was told that she has to marry, during those days, ladies, especially royal ladies, they were married according to royal arrangement to secure alliances within kingdom. And the most powerful kingdom at that time was Hastinapur also. But she was marrying a person who was blind. So Dhritarashtra was blind. But Gandhari, she accepted that without even thinking twice. And not only that, because her husband was blind, she was a very, very chaste lady. She did not want to overstep her husband. So therefore, she voluntarily blindfolded herself by tying a piece of cloth. And it said that she never removed that cloth, not for any reason. She kept that cloth covering her eyes. Only once she removed that cloth. That was to bless Duryodhana, so that Duryodhana can defeat, he will be protected, that he will not die. So, and anyway, that's a different story also. But the point here is, Gandhari was extremely chaste, and they performed their duties very, very nicely. So, Mahabharata is full of characters where you see every character would perform his duty perfectly, very nicely, even at the cost of great difficulties, even when other people were not doing their duties properly, right? But they were upholding their duties very strongly. So this is pleasing to Krishna. Krishna wants that all of us carefully perform our duties. At the same time, in this way, by following our duties carefully, we please the Lord. And that will create sukriti. And when we perform devotional service, it becomes very easy for us to, it becomes compatible. Devotional service and dharma is compatible. By performance of one's dharma, one duties are dharma, right? By performances of dharma, then our minds and our hearts become very compatible for devotional service. So it becomes easy, very easily we can execute the do's and the don'ts without any difficulty. So that is the point. So then, this is the last verse of the chapter. After this, by Pitra Charu Mato means by the Anumata, Pitra Cha Anumata, by the approval of his uncle Dhritarashtra. Even though Dhritarashtra was no longer the king, but Yudhishthira followed the etiquette very carefully, right? So he took permission from Dhritarashtra, and with the approval of Dhritarashtra, he ruled the kingdom, right? Two things are needed: the blessings and approval of seniors and the blessings of the Supreme Lord. Vasudeva Anumoditaha, confirmed by Lord Krishna. So these are the two things one needs when one carries out positions of authority: the approval of seniors and the approval of the Supreme Lord. or the representative of the Supreme Lord. So after this, by the approval of Dhritarashtra and by the approval of the Supreme Lord, Raja, the great Vibhu. So here Yudhishthira is also referred to as Vibhu, even though the word Vibhu is usually retained only for Krishna as the Supreme Lord. But because Bhagavat refers to Krishna, Bhagavat also refers to the pure devotees of the Lord. The pure devotees become just like the Lord in quality. So therefore, and Yudhishthira Maharaj is a very, very great personality. Prabhupada says he's almost as great as Bhishma. In fact, he's greater than Bhishma because he is an eternal associate of the Lord, right? So in that sense, he is also Vibhu, great. So the great religious king Maharaj Yudhishthira executed royal power in the Rajyam strictly according to Dharmena. Rajya means the kingdom. He executed royal power in the kingdom strictly according to the codes of scripture, Dharma, as was highlighted by Bhishma Dev. So Prabhupada says, duty as a king is no less than that of a father or spiritual master. We know the king's duty is very great. So what Prabhupada is really saying here is the father or the spiritual master or the leader also has a great duty to perform, just like no less than that of a king. The king is to see to the welfare of the citizens from all angles of social, political, economic, and spiritual upliftment. So this is the role of the king or the role of the father. Father also does the same, the parent or the leader. They need to see the full balanced situation, not just to exploit people. So nowadays in Kali Yuga, right, everywhere we see exploitation happening. Leaders are just simply trying to exploit people to get what they want done. Everybody has their own desires, their own KPIs or whatever it is. They just say, no. So they just want to exploit. So it's not just exploitation, it's actually welfare. So by encouraging the welfare of those who are under, right, automatically the people underneath them will be inspired to execute their dharma, which automatically satisfies what the king or the leader requires. So that is what's needed. So Prabhupada says, monarchy under a trained king like Maharaj Yudhishthira is by far most superior form of government. So better than democracy. Prabhupada used to call democracy demon crazy. Why? Prabhupada gives the reason. The mass of people, especially in this age of Kali, are born Sudras. Everybody is born Sudra. They don't know what is right, what is wrong. Right? Basically low born, with full of bad habits, bad desires, bad kind of thinking, right? Ill trained, don't know what is best for them, what is good for them, covered with bad habits, right? Unfortunate and badly associated. So they themselves do not know the highest perfection aim of life. So they are lost. There are no brahmanas there. So when this is the mass of people, does it make sense that we ask this mass of people to choose a leader to rule the world? What kind of leader will they choose, right, to rule the world? So if you go and ask a bunch of bullies to choose, right, a leader, then we will get what's happening in the world currently. Therefore, votes cast by them actually have no value. And thus, persons elected by such irresponsible votes, Prabhupada calls this irresponsible votes, cannot be responsible representatives like Maharaj Yudhishthira. So this is the flaw of democracy, right? The blind get together to select a leader who is also blind, who's out to exploit the blind, who selected them. So it's a vicious cycle. And it continues. So therefore, best is the monarchy government, where the personality is a trained person, trained by brahmanas, brought up righteously, having a righteous lineage, trained in executing dharma, by the approval of the brahmanas and the seniors, by the approval of the spirit of the Supreme Lord or the representatives of the Supreme Lord, that such a person is a true leader. So we have Ram Rajya, we have Yudhishthira Maharaj, right? Like that. So this is the summary, right? Bhishma passes on and thereafter. So these are the subtopics which we covered in this chapter. So with that, we stop here. Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Sri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. So Hare Krishna. Is there any questions or anything that anyone wants to clarify?
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. Nice to hear your voice.
Prabhu, very interesting topic today. Prabhu, Bhishma is one of the 8 Vasus.
Who? Bhishma. Oh, okay.
One of the 8 Vasus.
Yeah.
And Amba is Shikanti. Shikanti, she took rebirth to kill Bhishma.
Yeah.
No, Prabhu. My question now here. Shikanti, when Amba, when Bhishma kidnapped Amba from a kingdom, she asked accused want to go back and couldn't marry, and then come back, asked Bhishma to marry, but Bhishma refused, and then she got angry, she wanted to take revenge. But why she has to kill herself to rebirth again as a woman, not as a man? And how come she remembers a past when she take rebirth again as a Shikanti? How she remembers a past life?
Okay. Yeah, so this is a very interesting story. So yeah, Bhishma, he actually, because at that time the kingdom needed Bhishma already took a vow. He took a vow of celibacy. He cannot marry, and what do you call? Vichitra Virya was the king at that time, but he was not a very powerful king. So Bhishma Dev was actually the person taking care of the kingdom. And it was his responsibility to ensure that there was a proper marriage with the king, Vichitra Virya. So that time there was a Swayamvara ceremony. And in the Swayamvara ceremony, the 3 princesses the Swayamvara ceremony was done to honor the 3 princesses, Amba, Ambika, and Ambalika. But so what happens in a Swayamvara is everybody will come, all the princes will come and they will fight, have a contest, and the winner will get the hand of the princesses in marriage. So Bhishma came, he entered the Swayamvara. He was the greatest person in the Swayamvara. He won the hands of all these princesses and he brought them to marry Vichitra Virya. But when he brought them, that time Amba, who was the eldest of the 3 princesses, revealed to Bhishma, actually, I am already in love with another king. I didn't want to tell my father. And now that you have won me, please let me go so that I can go to my other king. So first of all, her request was not dharmic. She did not reveal the truth to her father, and this happened. But anyway, Bhishma Dev, he agreed. He allowed Amba to go. But when Amba went back to the lover, who was another king, who also attended the Swayamvara, but when he saw Amba, he said, I cannot accept you anymore because you were already won by another man and you have been rejected. So therefore I cannot, I'm a king. What will the people say? So much for anyway, that was the mood at that time. So Amba was rejected by her lover. So she was embarrassed. So don't know what else to do. So she cannot go back to her father. So she came back to Bhishma and told Bhishma, now my lover has rejected me, and therefore you have to marry me only. So then Bhishma said, no, I cannot marry you because I've taken my vow. I've made a promise. So therefore, you are now free to go wherever you want. But Amba was so upset. Who will accept me? My reputation is ruined. And she blamed Bhishma for it. Actually, it was her own fault. She kept the truth about her relationship secret. She didn't reveal it at the time to her father, and the father arranged this. So it wasn't Bhishma's fault. So Bhishma, whatever he did was righteous. So Amba, due to all this anger and due to her false ego, she wanted to take revenge on Bhishma. So she approached Parasuram. She went to Parasuram and told Parasuram, "You are the greatest fighter in the world. Nobody can defeat Bhishma except you. You are his guru, in fact. So you please go and uphold my dharma as a woman, right? I request you to do this for me." So she was very persistent, and Parashuram was a bit soft-hearted also. So he agreed. But Parashuram also, actually Parashuram gave the boon to Bhishma because Bhishma was such a great personality, and he was a great Siksha disciple. So Parashuram gave the boon to Bhishma. No one in this world can defeat you. So Parashuram gave the boon to him. And Parashuram, he knew that, but still because Amba trusted him, so therefore Parashuram went to fight with Bhishma. He told Bhishma, "Oh Bhishma, how you can do this to Amba? Amba said like this, like this, like this. You should give up your vow and marry Amba." Then Bhishma said, "No, how can I give up my vow? Truthfulness, satyam. You are telling me to do something which is not correct." So therefore, then they had a fight. So they fought. Bhishma, of course, he respected Parashuram first. He took his obeisances and his blessing before he started the fight. And it was it was a very beautiful fight. You should read the description, it's very beautiful. But at the end of the fight, because of the blessing of Parashuram, Bhishmadev could not be defeated by Parashuram even though he was his guru. So it became a draw. So then Parashuram went to Amba and told, I couldn't defeat him. I tried my best. So now you are free to do what you like. So Amba was very upset. How is this? When someone meditates upon something which is wrong, when they think about it again and again, sometimes a small matter can become worse and worse and worse if they keep meditating upon it. So that was the case with Amba. She couldn't let go. So she kept remembering it again, and she didn't want to just. Parashuram advised her, leave this, right? But she didn't listen. So she went into the forest. She decided to become a ascetic, tapaswini, to completely give up everything and to pray. So she went and did austerities, great austerities, and she prayed and prayed and prayed until Lord Shiva came to her. And then she told Lord Shiva, "I want my revenge." Because she was praying in the mode of ignorance, austerity was in the mode of ignorance. Lord Shiva appeared. So Lord Shiva is there to please those in the mode of ignorance, right? He is the Lord in charge of the mode of ignorance. So therefore, he told her, "You are a woman, and Parashuram has given the blessings that Bhishmadev can never be defeated, and he is Chanda Mrityu. He will die only when he wants to. So it is not possible for you to kill him in this life. Only in the next life you could kill him. So in your next life, you will take birth, right? You will become a man, and then you will fight with him, and you will bring about the cause of Bhishma's death." So that was the point. He will bring about the cause of Bhishma's death, because Bhishma cannot be killed by anybody, but he will be the cause. So then Amba was so wildly happy. "Oh, thank you." And she was so eager to exact her revenge that she couldn't wait for a natural death. She actually created a fire and she jumped into the fire. Her anger was so strong, it was burning her inside, that the flame of entering in the pain of entering into a real fire cannot compare to the anger which was burning her inside. So this is a lesson for us not to follow in the footsteps to give in to anger, which opens the gates of hell. So that's what happened. So therefore, in her next life, it's a very long story. She wasn't born as a man first. She was born as a woman. It's a very funny story also. But anyway, many things happened, and eventually she became a man, and she was known as Shikandi. and she joined the camp of the Pandavas. And when they were fighting, Bhishma Dev knew that this person in her previous life was Amba, and he refused to fight him all the time. So whenever Shikandi will come in front of Bhishma, Bhishma will say, "You are a woman. I will never fight a woman. Even now you are a man, but in your previous life you are a woman. I've known you as a woman only, so I'm not going to fight you." So but she imagined Shikandi exasperated. So that's why, so because of the boon of Lord Shiva, she could remember all this and she could exact her revenge. And then Krishna knew this and he told Arjuna, you want to defeat Bhishma, you put Shikandi in front of you and you behind Shikandi, you shoot your arrows. So when you do this, Bhishma will not raise his weapon and protect himself. So in this way, you can defeat Bhishma. So like that. So that's what happened, Prabhu. So I don't know, I hope that answered your question.
Yeah, I understand. Because of Lord Shiva, she remembers.
Yes.
But to me, it looks like Lord Krishna, he arranged everything very cunningly.
Yeah, he's the great mastermind. He arranges everything perfectly.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Any other questions from anybody else? Right? If there are no questions, then as usual, anyone has questions after this, you can always put it in the chat. You can send me a message and I'm happy to answer. Right? So thank you very much. Thank you for your time. Thank you for listening. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Hare Krishna.
Hare
Krishna Prabhu. Thank you, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.